The IT team at Bethany's Pie Shop has been noticing an uptick in security alerts related to failed login attempts on their domain. Specifically, they're concerned that a user account might be targeted for a brute force account. You're tasked with auditing failed login events in the security log if the suspicions are correct, so let's do some sleuthing. Let's dive in and see how we can leverage PowerShell to audit those security logs and protect users from Bethany's Pie Shop or protect those users from brute force password attacks. For this kind of log investigation, I'm connected to my domain controller here directly via PowerShell loading as a domain admin. So to start off, let's first replicate a login attempt just to make sure we have one. Here, I'm just trying to connect to a non-existent share with a username of a fake user that does not exist. Oh darn, failed login attempt. Let's now see if that attempt was recorded. I've already enabled auditing on the domain controller. All failed login attempts are recorded on the domain controller with an ID of 4625. We can use get when event to do that and filter on the security log for all 4625 event IDs. And here I'm only selecting the first 10 because there might be a bunch. You can see that there are some accounts failing to authenticate, but that's a lot more failures than the one I just produced. But we need to dig deeper to confirm if any specific account is being targeted. First, let's inspect one of the events to see what it looks like. To do that, I'll have to use select object, and I want to view the first one and view all the properties. You can see that there's a ton of information logged in a single event. If I scroll up here, you'll see the message property. In the message property, you'll see the account name that was denied, the reason the failure occurred, and where the denial came from. You'll see that the account of administrator, this is actually on the internet because it's just a demo VM, and it looks like someone is actually trying to brute force their way in as we speak. Let's narrow down this output to only show the pertinent details we're after. This will require a bit of text parsing since the typical info we want is buried. I just pasted this code snippet in here for now, and this is just using a single event to test this code. You can see that I'm piping get when event to select object in the first line and only selecting the first object returned. Get when event returns that message and the properties property that contain the information we're after. The failed login message is hidden in the message property on the first line of a multi-line string, so we must split that message string on a new line and then choose the first one. The account name and source network address are stored in the properties property. Luckily, the properties property is an array, so we can pick out the index for both of those values. And for a failure reason, well, it's safe to say you have to do some ninja moves to get this. The code is splitting the message text into an array again, and then finds a line that contains the failure reason label, and then removes that label, and what's left is the actual reason. So let's run this code and see what it comes back with. Great, it's working. You can see that we have the administrator, the user account, failed login message, the reason, and the source network address. It got all four elements I was looking for, but there's no way I'm going to just copy and paste this text into my console every time I want to see this info, and it's just set up for one event anyway. Let's create a script from it. I'm down directly on the server, and I've created a script from that refactored code that we just went over. Instead of only processing a single event here, I'm using a for each loop to process each event found. It then creates a PS custom object and provides labels to each of the values we're after. So let's now run this and see what happens. Since there may be a lot of failures, I'll only look at the top 3 events. And there we go. We have the message account, failure message, and source IP address. It will pull all of these for all of the events now. So now that you have a script to pull only the necessary information, we can then filter on this just like any other PowerShell object using where object. So maybe I just want all of the failed attempts for the username of admin. And now you can see it's starting to return some information. There's no need to figure out how to parse that message property anymore. So now you have a script to audit failed login attempts you can build from and make better.